The void of space rippled as something massive tore through hyperspace. The Imperial flagship Eternal Dawn emerged, a colossal structure glimmering under distant starlight. Its hull, stretching over 12 kilometers, shone like liquid steel, engraved with ancient Imperial sigils. Thousands of gun batteries rotated in silent unison, ready to unleash death upon command. Inside, corridors pulsed with blue light, echoing with the rhythm of power reactors deep below. At the heart of this floating fortress stood Grand Admiral Vale, the most feared strategist in the galaxy. His posture was precise, his uniform immaculate, every metal a story of conquest. Around him, officers worked at glowing consoles, their hands trembling under his silent authority. "Admiral," one of them stammered, "our long-range scanners have detected human activity near the asteroid belt." Vale's piercing eyes focused on the holographic display. Tiny blips appeared, small, fragile ships compared to his armada. "Primitive vessels," he muttered coldly. "And yet, they have arrived first." The Admiral turned toward the massive viewport, gazing at the stars like a hunter eyeing his prey. "So, the rebels found the relic before us." Silence fell across the bridge. Everyone knew what that relic meant, power beyond imagination. Vale clasped his hands behind his back, his expression unreadable. "Prepare all battle groups. Full alert." The command echoed through the ship, claxons blared, red lights flashed. Pilots sprinted toward their fighters, engineers flooded the hangars. The Eternal Dawn began to hum, its engines charging with a low, thunderous growl. Vale whispered, almost to himself, "The galaxy has forgotten what fear truly means." Then he looked into the void and said, "Let us remind them." His second-in-command, a stern officer named Lai Hyun, stepped forward. "Sir, if I may, are we sure they're hostile?" "Diplomatic channels haven't confirmed." Vale's cold stare silenced him. "We tried peace once." "The galaxy laughed," he said. "Now, it will kneel." Outside, entire fleets shifted formation, aligning with mathematical precision. The stars around them dimmed under the sheer energy output of the war engines. Eternal Dawn turned its colossal frame toward the asteroid belt, toward destiny. The invasion had begun. Far beyond the asteroid belt, hidden beneath the shadow of a fractured moon, the UHS Valkyrie floated silently, humanity's last surviving dreadnought. Its once proud hull was scarred by plasma fire, its emblem half melted, but its heart still burned with defiance. Inside the command deck, Captain Mira Sol stood surrounded by the faint hum of damaged systems. Her uniform was torn, her eyes sleepless, yet her voice remained steady. "Status?" she asked quietly. "Shields at 40%, engines unstable," replied her engineer. "But our weapon core is still operational." Mira nodded, glancing at the hologram flickering before her. The Imperial fleet was advancing, thousands of ships stretching across light years like a storm made of metal and fire. The Eternal Dawn led them, monstrous and beautiful, consuming everything in its path. Mira clenched her jaw. "They think they own the stars," she whispered. "Let's show them who built the roads between them." She walked toward the front viewport, where the stars shimmered with cold indifference. "Open channel," she ordered. Her communication officer hesitated. "To who, Captain?" "To everyone," she replied. The signal went out, across satellites, across broken colonies, across the void. "This is Captain Mira Sol of the United Human Fleet," her voice echoed through space. "We have faced extinction before. We have watched our cities burn and our oceans freeze. But we never bowed. The Empire believes we are weak because we value life. They mistake mercy for fragility. Today, we remind them that our compassion ends where their tyranny begins." Across the surviving human ships, mining freighters turned warcraft, orbital stations converted into cannons, cheers erupted. For the first time in years, hope flickered deep inside Valkyrie's core. Engineers rushed to activate the last human secret, Project Dawnfire, an experimental weapon derived from quantum folding energy. It had never been tested. It could either save humanity or destroy everything within 10 light-years. Mira knew the risk. "If we fall," she said softly, "we fall making history." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Aaron, smirked faintly. "No, Captain. We rise, even if it's from our own ashes." As the Imperial fleet approached, the void filled with light. The two greatest powers in the galaxy were about to collide. The first plasma bolt left Eternal Dawn's cannons, tearing through the silence like thunder. Mira didn't flinch. "All ships, return fire," she commanded. And for the first time in millennia, humanity roared back, a defiant spark against an empire of darkness. The battle raged across the void, stars streaking as if the universe itself mourned the carnage. Human ships, battered but unyielding, danced between the Empire's massive warships, slipping through energy fields, ricocheting plasma fire off gravity wells, striking from impossible angles. Every strike was precise, every maneuver coordinated as if the fleet itself had a mind of its own. Captain Mira Sol's voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding, "Hold formation. Focus fire on their dreadnoughts first." Explosions erupted in brilliant cascades, tearing metal and fire across the darkness. The Eternal Dawn shuddered under the onslaught, pieces of its armor peeling away like flakes of black ice. Mira's crew worked tirelessly, repairing hull breaches, redirecting power, praying that each system would hold just a little longer. They knew the odds were impossible, yet their resolve never faltered. Among the chaos, small human vessels carried out surgical strikes, sabotaging supply lines, cutting off reinforcements, while heavy cruisers rained down relentless fire. Mira watched as a massive Imperial carrier disintegrated in a bloom of energy, its crew vaporized instantly, and yet, the enemy pushed on relentlessly. "They're learning from us," Aaron said, grim. "Let them," Mira replied. "Every lesson they take is a mistake they won't survive." The Valkyrie twisted through the battlefield, narrowly avoiding a collision with a drifting frigate, and a wave of hope swept through the human crews. The first cracks appeared in the Imperial formations, ships slowed, then faltered, then exploded under coordinated human fire. Across the comms, scattered Imperial voices cried confusion and terror, a sound humanity had never heard before. Mira smiled faintly, feeling the tide turn. Then came the moment of truth. The core of Project Dawnfire glowed, humming with raw energy, a promise of obliteration and salvation alike. She knew she held the fate of billions in her hands, the balance of the galaxy suspended on a knife edge. "Prepare the pulse," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Every sensor, every instrument, every weapon in the Valkyrie aligned with purpose. The fleet moved as one organism, a perfect extension of human will, fearless and unbroken. As the weapon charged, the Empire's dreadnoughts prepared for their final strike. The collision was imminent. Mira closed her eyes briefly. This was humanity's moment, not of conquest, but of survival, of defiance, of proving that even in the face of annihilation, courage could shine brighter than the coldest stars. The pulse unleashed in a searing wave of light and energy, tearing through enemy lines, breaking formations, shattering ships, and in that instant, the impossible became real. Silence followed the storm, punctuated by the distant groans of dying engines. The human fleet floated victorious, battered but unbroken, in the wake of devastation. Mira exhaled slowly, watching the remains of the Imperial fleet drift in space. For the first time, hope felt tangible. Humanity had struck back. Humanity had survived. And across the dark expanse, whispers of a new dawn began to spread. With the battle over, the galaxy began to breathe a cautious, tentative sigh of relief. Across countless systems, ships returned to orbit, some carrying wounded, others bearing news of liberation. Humanity's fleet held firm, standing as both shield and symbol, a reminder of the price of freedom and the cost of tyranny. On Nexus Prime, Fleet Admiral Marcus Kane walked through the Grand Council chambers, now transformed into tribunals, where leaders of the defeated council faced justice. Each had once wielded unimaginable power, deciding the fates of billions, yet now they stood diminished, stripped of command, confronted by the consequences of their actions. The tribunals were meticulous, thorough, and transparent, every charge meticulously documented, every witness accounted for, every atrocity exposed. Recordings of genocide, orders to eradicate entire civilizations, the cold execution of diplomats, all presented with unflinching clarity. Kane oversaw proceedings with a quiet determination, ensuring fairness even to those who had shown none to others. Outside the chambers, survivors of client races watched, their eyes a mixture of sorrow and relief, witnessing the first real justice they had ever known. The hive mind collective, once a single terrifying consciousness, was systematically dismantled, its individual organisms relocated to separate worlds, forced to develop independent thought and autonomy, a punishment fitting their crimes of erasing countless lives. Across liberated systems, new governments rose, fragile yet hopeful, guided not by fear but by choice. Some struggled with internal strife, others flourished, and humanity offered aid where it was requested, always careful not to impose dominance, only protection. Kane reflected on the thin line between power and tyranny, knowing the galaxy now watched humanity as both protector and standard-bearer. Celebrations on Earth were tempered by remembrance. Memorials honored Sarah Chen and the 23 civilizations lost to the Council's cruelty, ensuring that history would not forget the lessons of arrogance, fear, and the consequences of unchecked authority. Amidst all this, the Free Species Alliance was formed, a voluntary coalition of sovereign species, bound not by fear or submission, but by mutual defense, trade, and the promise of freedom. 47 tribunals continued to adjudicate mid-level council officials and military commanders, each case reinforcing that justice would be pursued without vengeance, yet with uncompromising resolve. Kane stood before a new memorial, inscriptions etched in blackstone, remembering those who had fallen, those who had survived, and the cost of standing for what is right. He felt the weight of responsibility, the pride of accomplishment, and the quiet ache of loss. For every victory came a reminder of sacrifice, and for every liberated species, the shadow of what could have been loomed. Kane's final broadcast echoed across the sector, a message of hope, accountability, and vigilance. Humanity had fought not for domination, but for the principle that no species should live under oppression or be erased for defiance. The galaxy had witnessed both the horrors of the Council and the resolve of humanity. From the ruins and triumphs emerged a new era, one where choice, justice, and freedom guided the stars. As the Ghost Fleet rotated crews and maintained readiness, humanity remained vigilant, aware that peace was fragile and that the lessons learned through blood and courage would need constant guardianship. Marcus Kane finally looked toward the stars, imagining his grandchildren on Earth, wondering if they would live in a galaxy free of fear, free of tyranny, free to write their own destinies. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself a quiet, unburdened hope, knowing that humanity had not only survived but had set a standard for what it meant to be both powerful and just. The galaxy, scarred but alive, whispered the dawn of a new age, where freedom would not be demanded but earned, where justice would guide action, and where the memory of loss ensured that tyranny could never rise unchallenged again. Amid the stars, the legacy of Sarah Chen, the fallen, and the survivors would endure, a reminder of courage, choice, and the enduring power of humanity to rise above even the darkest of times.